This episode is sponsored today by the book 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. This book was written by kids. It's for kids. It's a coloring book. When you have a tragedy of divorce and you have young children who do not know how to express themselves, this coloring book, 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce, is the coloring book for them. Pick it up today at blendingthefamily.com or even on Amazon. 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. Again, written by kids, for kids.
Welcome to Blending the Family, the podcast. Topics can range from dads hitting rock bottom, daughters watching their parents divorce, or even what is a good wine for couples to have while talking about finances. Here's your host, who actually owns a copy of the best of Milli Vanilli. Imagine that. Tommy Maloney.
Welcome to another edition of Blending the Family, the podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Maloney. And before I keep going, please head over to our Instagram, Blending Family. That's just simply Blending Family. And check out a video about me having the best of Milli Vanilli. Do I? Don't I? Check out the video. Blending Family on the IG, the Instagram. Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast, again, called Blending the Family. Again, I'm your host, Tommy Maloney. And on this episode, we have author, illustrator, Nadine Haruni. Nadine Haruni. Her books are really cool. The first book was called Freeda the Frog Gets a Divorce. And she's written a series of them. Her newest book, which comes out in 2018, I believe she said May of 2018, is called Freeda the Frog is on the Move. And these books are somewhat autobiographical, except Nadine is not a frog. She's actually a practicing lawyer, and I've never understood when we say practicing. Don't you know it by now? It's like when you go to a practicing physician, hopefully they spend enough time in school that they can fix your boo-boo. Anyway, as I said, Nadine is a author, illustrator of these books called Freeda the Frog. And on this episode, we talk about a little bit of how art imitates life. The second book, which was called Freeda the Frog and Her New Blue Family, which was based on her family, where she was married, divorced, remarried, and her husband is from another culture, another land, a beautiful land, I imagine. Nadine explained that he's Persian, Iranian, something else. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm super excited about this because these books are just insanely good. Find Nadine and her Freeda the Frog on the social. She's on the social, and you'll see it in the show notes. But the website is simply freedafrog.com, and that's spelled Freeda, FreedaTheFrog, so freedafrog.com. And like I said, she's on the social as well, on the Twitter and Instagram. It's Freeda the Frog. And on Facebook, it's also Freeda the Frog. So find her on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on the Facebook, and the website, freedafrog.com, where you can find her books at the website and in the usual places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I'm trying to think, what else? What else is going on? I was going to record this a few minutes earlier. Not that, time really matters on this, but here it is. We're supposed to be in the mid-60s here in Colorado, and I heard something that I was not really prepared to hear, and I couldn't record yet. I wasn't ready to record yet because somebody was mowing their yard. It's March. Somebody was mowing their yard. I'm like, no! I am not ready to mow the yard just yet. I don't have a problem with mowing the yard. I enjoy it. I very much, it's my zen. Between picking up Duke's doggy duty, and mowing the yard, I'm fine. I put on a podcast, usually a better podcast, not this one. I shouldn't have said that, should I? I don't know. Anyway, put on a podcast or some music and just tune out. I love it. And I really wish we had a bigger yard, front and back, because I would just, not to the point where I would need a riding lawnmower. I like it. I like the exercise. I like zoning out when I'm mowing. Shoveling, hate it. Despise it. Drives me nuts. Drives me bonkers. Anyway, I think that's all I have. That's about it. All right. Nadine Haruni, her book, Freeda the Frog, or the series of books, Freeda the Frog. So pick up Freeda the Frog Gets a Divorce, Freeda the Frog and Her New Blue Family, and the new book coming out 2018, Freeda the Frog is on the move. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe however you get your this podcast. Please subscribe, be it on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Libsyn, iHeartRadio. Can't forget them as well. So please, I greatly appreciate if you would just simply subscribe. All right, once again, Nadine Haruni, the website, Freeda the Frog. Enjoy this episode. How do you pronounce your last name? Haruni. I've been practicing that all day and making sure, and I even said to my daughter, I go, how do you say that? She goes, Haruni. I'm like, all right, just making sure.
Yeah, it's Persian, so. Where are you based, by the way? Where are you?
I'm in north of Denver in a town called Greeley, Colorado.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask if I thought for some reason I thought you were, I don't know why I thought you were in Canada. But okay, yeah, we got a lot of snow. I don't know if you heard, but we got wallops today.
I'm looking out at no snow, and I like it that way.
Are you a skier?
No, nope.
Oh, okay.
Don't ski, don't snowboard. Yeah, not. I used to play hockey. That was probably the closest thing.
Okay.
Yeah. What kind of law do you practice, and why do they keep calling it practice? When do you get better if you keep practicing?
Well, I do workers' comp in New York, and I guess I don't know why they call it. I don't know why they call it practicing, but yeah, I've been doing workers' comp since 1995 for the most part, with the exception of it took a couple of year break and was doing nonprofit work. Oh,
that's very rewarding doing nonprofit, though.
Nonprofit, yeah, it was great. I loved it. But years ago, I had a firm with my ex-husband. We had started a practice, so I kind of needed to focus more on the firm. So that's why I went back to practicing.
And is that when you also, after the divorce, is that when Freeda came alive?
So actually, Freeda first came alive in 1998. I used to take writing courses, and I used to took art courses, and I had taken a college course writing and illustrating children's books. And at the time, my mom, who was Freeda, was going through a divorce, and so that was the book I drafted. But then at that time, I had a lot going on. I didn't really know how to go about getting it published, so I never really did anything with it. And then many years later, when I had gotten married, and then I had gotten divorced, and I had 2 young kids. And at the time that I had split up with my ex, my kids were 1.5 and 4.5. There were not really a plethora of books, I would say, out there addressing divorce for kids.
It's true. It's true. And the only ones that I see are out there are the ones that we write.
Right. So there weren't, and there weren't that many books that were written really on a kid's level, which I knew my book was. So I made some kind of tweaks to it. I got a professional illustrator, and then I got a publisher, and so that's how the book actually ended up happening. But then after I started getting a lot of positive feedback from people, so the book was actually released 2 years ago. In May it'll be 2 years. I got a lot of positive feedback from divorced parents, also from child therapists, school psychologists who had mentioned that they kind of used the book as a way to sort of introduce the subject of divorce to their young kids, clients, or families. And it kind of just sparked me thinking that there should be kind of a continuation of this. So that's when the second book happened. It came out a year later, called Freeda the Frog and Her New Blue Family. And that's geared towards blended families, step families, mixed race, mixed religion, mixed ethnicity. And same kind of, it was a continuation of the first book, but with a separate focus. So I kind of decided that based on the feedback I was getting, there seems to be a niche, and I'm making each book a continuation of the next, but it sort of picks up where the last book left off, and it has a separate focus. So the third book, which is coming out in May, is called Freeda the Frog is on the Move, and in that book, in the second book, Freeda married a blue frog. They have a bigger family. So now in the third book, they moved to a bigger lily pad, and it's addressing kids' feelings on moving to a new school or a new town.
When you said, Nadine, that Freeda is your mom, what does that mean to you, that Freeda is your mom?
Well, I'm very close with my mom, but she had gone through a divorce herself at the time. So I kind of thought, as I was writing that, she was going through a tough time, it would make her laugh. And then it became a more serious thing because I realized that this could really help kids. So that's kind of what kind of inspired me to use her name in the title.
Now, was this your parents' divorce?
My parents, right.
Okay, so how old were you when this all occurred?
I was in my early 20s.
Oh, so a little later in life.
Right. Yeah, I think it was in my second year of law school, maybe.
And, what type of impact, because, for myself and others, when we've talked about divorce, it usually happens at a younger age. So what kind of impact did it have on you in a later age?
I guess everybody's different. For me, I was already older. I was on my own. I was living out, going to school and stuff, and it wasn't a surprise. My parents were not really happily married, so it didn't really come as a big shocker. It ended up being much better for both of them.
And so why a frog?
I don't know. I guess it was just kind of a play on words with the Freeda, I guess the F's, and it just kind of sort of naturally evolved. I started joking around and calling her Freeda the Frog, and then that was it.
Did you ever have a problem as a young child dissecting frogs? Because that would bring back some bad memories for me.
Actually, it does. It does bring back bad memories. My son mentioned to me at school, he's in 8th grade, they were dissecting a frog, and it kind of reminded me of something I intentionally, I think, forgot.
Was he going, I can't dissect Grandma?
He didn't, but...
Yeah, for me, because in college, my major was sports medicine, and I couldn't dissect without throwing up. And so I switched from sports medicine one semester to theater, and then just ended up becoming a communications major, and was happy because I like I said, I can't dissect without throwing up. I'm not good around dead things.
I hear you. That wouldn't be for me either.
So I really don't like to do a lot of things linear, but as I think about it, is the ultimate goal is to do writing full time and leave the law practicing? That
is the ultimate goal. I'm realizing that I'm kind of this whole writing thing sort of unleashed a passion inside me, which is really to just write these books and help families. So I kind of just recently added a tagline to my website, which is helping families of all species one tadpole at a time, because it's basically, I'm hoping by the time I'm done, I'm hoping to write at least a dozen books. Future topics will address such things as adoption. I'm going to do gay families, death of a pet, special needs kids, disabled family members, for example. These are some of the future topic ideas. I'm hoping that at least one story will kind of hit a nerve or with every family, that at least every family can relate to at least one of the topics, and it will help them or their kids going through whatever they're going through, or help kids realize that their family may not look like everybody else's, but that's okay, and it's still a special, wonderful family nonetheless. And aside from helping families, I really love this. So I think, of course I'm biased, but I think that Freeda is a pretty cute, lovable character. I have started making t-shirts, and I have one stuffed animal so far that I made, and whenever I go to events and I bring it, all the kids all want to hold the stuffed animal and stuff like that. So I tried to make it a cute, lovable character, because some of these topics could be scary for kids, so I wanted to make it a little approachable, and then to see the character and like the character.
Well, of course she's lovable. She's your mom.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. When you were going through your divorce, and kids, your two youngest weren't probably old enough to start reading, but as they started to progress, did you have them look at your book?
Yeah, they would both repeatedly ask me to read them the book when the first book came out. And even, the age group they say is really from 2 to 11. Young kids simply because it's a cute character, older kids because the subject matter is a little, more complicated. But my kids really enjoyed it, and it helped, I think, especially for my daughter. My son, for whatever reason, when I split up with their dad, my daughter was really too young to know what was going on. She was 1.5, and my son was 4.5. My son happened to have had a number of friends whose parents, we lived in the city at the time, a number of friends whose parents were divorced or separated, so it wasn't totally unusual for him. My daughter, on the other hand, even though as common as divorce is, for whatever reason, she had no friends whose parents were divorced. So she felt kind of alone. So it did help her and comfort her hearing the story kind of over and over.
And now you have... do you have 3 other bonus children, or?
I do. Yes, I met a wonderful guy.
A lawyer as well?
No.
Okay. So he's done practicing. So whatever career he does.
Yeah, he's in technology. Great guy, and he had 3 teenage daughters when I met him. We've been together now it's been a long time. And he has, his daughters are 18, 21, 23, and they're terrific. I really love them. They're my blood, birth daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very close with my kids, so they very quickly bonded, and it's been really wonderful.
How did you get everybody to bond?
Well, I think, my kids were really little when, I met him about a year after I had split up, so my kids were 2.5 and 5.5, and to my stepdaughters, my kids were just cute, little. They weren't in the same age category, so there wasn't any competition. I think my kids found them to be really cool because they were older, and my stepdaughters found my kids to be really cute, so they just all hit it off, and they kind of have, now we've been together for about almost 9 years, I guess, so my kids have really grown up with the girls.
So let me ask you this, Nadine, if your kids and your husband's kids didn't get along, do you think you would have continued the relationship?
I think it would have been difficult for both of us. I mean, because both of us prioritized our kids when we met each other. So I don't know what would have happened. I think it would have been really difficult.
And do your bonus kids get a kick out of Freeda?
They do. They do.
What has been probably the biggest benefit of the first book of Freeda and the divorce?
The biggest benefit, I guess, has just been seeing kids' reactions and getting feedback, and just, I guess, like I said, it made me realize that this is what I feel like, not to sound corny, but this is what I feel like I was born to do. I've always been writing as a hobby, and now I realize this is meant to be either just a long-term side career or a full-time career at some point, hopefully.
When you say you were always writing, what was the type of genre you were writing before Freeda?
Nothing serious. I mean, short stories, poetry. When I was in high school, I always took writing courses and did well in writing courses. Nothing really. I mean, then there was a lot of law-related, boring stuff like law articles, but nothing professional.
Have you thought about? But have you, with the impact of your Freeda series, have you thought about changing your law career to more family-oriented law?
No. As long as I continue practicing, I love the firm I'm at. I do love what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time, so I'm kind of, I have a lot of friends in the industry. So I think it would be very hard to, after doing this for so many years, to start. I mean, it's a completely foreign. Family law is a totally different animal.
In what way?
I'd kind of be starting over because it's the laws are totally different than the area I'm practicing in now, which is helping people who get hurt at work. So I'd kind of be starting over again, which I'm not really looking to do. I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing as a lawyer, but I'm more passionate about the writing. You're remarried now and have stepchildren as well? I
do. We took the vernacular step out of our relationship because we never understood the word step. I take it to, some of those horror movies, the evil stepdad. And so and I don't remember where I ever heard the word bonus. So I just continued to use the word bonus, and we get those strange looks like, bonus, what does that mean? Well, I would look back and go, what does step mean? And I always remember from the Brady Bunch, there was one episode where Peter said, my stepsister is in the bathroom too long, and Carol said, the only steps in this house lead up. And so, like I said, I've never understood the word step, and I've always found the word bonus more positive than step. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, I was on a talk show years ago, a TV talk show in Connecticut, and I said that to the host. I said bonus, and he said, what did you say? I said bonus. And it was just like I said, I never understood the word step. It never felt positive. It always felt negative when you used the word step. And so that's kind of been my drive, is to have more and more people use the word bonus versus step.
That's a very good point. So how many bonus children and how many children in general do you
So have? Between my wife and I, we have 3, 21, 16, and 15 as of this coming Sunday. And, for my wife and I, this is why I asked you the question, Nadine, was that my wife and I said when we were dating that if the kids didn't get along, we weren't going to continue on because it wasn't fair to the kids. It wasn't fair that, we would add, extra baggage to their life. And so, obviously in our case, it worked out really well. And so that's why I like to ask that question, because to some of the guests on this show, they've said, no, we would have done it no matter, we would have stuck together no matter what. And in the back of my mind, I always go, well, that's not fair to the kids, especially younger ones. Now, in your situation, it was a little bit different because you did have older bonus kids, but still the point I like to make is it's just not fair to the kids. And if it was meant to be, it was meant to be.
I agree with that. I mean, I think, yes, in our case, luckily, my husband and I had both come from difficult prior situations, and this just seemed to work very naturally and very easily. Just, I mean, not only my relationship with him, but our relationship with each of our respective kids, how the kids all got along together. And, I mean, as I said, my kids now are just brother and sisters. It's one boy, 4 girls. So they, I mean, really genuinely love each other, and it's worked out wonderfully. So luckily we didn't have any real conflict in that area at all.
Yeah, and in our family, I made a conscious effort to make sure that, especially when we all moved in together, I didn't want to come up with, hey, it's my way or the highway. I wanted to be, I wanted them to be a part of a lot of the decisions. And, for example, after my first divorce, a good friend of mine said, when you go pick out furniture for your son, make sure he's part of it. Make sure he is part of that decision making. And so, I took that advice and ran with it. So when it came time for any major decisions, even house hunting, every house that, like the weekends that we had all the kids, I made sure that we were all together because I wanted their input. I want to know if this house would become our home. And that's, I think that's why personally and selfishly we've been a very successful blended family because, and you said this earlier too about you and your husband, is that, the kids came first, and that was our philosophy too, is that the kids had to come first in any step of the way. I mean, even down to the wedding. I mean, my oldest bonus daughter, I not only did I call my future in-laws, I had coffee with Betsy and to get her permission as well to marry her mom.
That's sweet. That's nice.
And, like I said, I just wanted all the kids to be part of all the decision-making.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great, especially when you're dealing with older kids. I think that's great.
Yeah, because, they like to be considered adults, and you want to do your best to respect their adultness. And so that's, has it always worked out? No.
Right.
But... feelings will get hurt, and that's part of life.
Right, that's true.
So, how much of your Freeda books do you relate to Freeda? You said it was, Freeda was originally about your mom, but how much of you are in Freeda? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's actually kind of ironic that, and it wasn't the plan, but thus far the first 3 books have kind of mirrored my life a little bit. So, the first book, as I said, yes, was originally written for my mother. Obviously, at that point when I wrote it, which was well before I got married, I had no idea that would be my life. The second book, it did seem natural for me to have Freeda get married as a follow-up book, and there's a lot due to the climate. I would say with a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Just due to the environment that was going on, I just felt it would be important to have this book not just be only about step families, but address mixed families, mixed race, mixed religion, mixed ethnicity, to make it sort of also about promoting, loving one another, and it doesn't matter what the outside of somebody's skin looks like. As it turns out, my husband is Persian and darker skinned, and very fair. So I mean, one of my stepbrothers made a joke and said, "Oh my God, we're the blue frogs," and I didn't even, it wasn't even intentional, but it kind of was a joke because I mean we are a little bit different cultures. But so I guess the second book sort of did mirror my life a little bit as well. And then we did move when we got married. We all had to move, and the kids went to different schools and stuff. And as I said, the third book is about moving to a new school, new town. So a lot of these issues are issues that my kids and I have personally dealt with, but I don't think it's so unique. I mean, I think, as you know, there are a lot of divorced families out there. There's a lot of blended families out there. So I think that these are topics a lot of people can relate to. A lot of kids, whether they have families that are remarried or just have always been together, a lot of families do have kids going through the mixed emotions surrounding a move to a new school, new town. So I felt that that was a little more mainstream of a topic. And we actually, in the fourth book, which I've kind of started drafting a little bit, was going to be about loss of a pet. The frogs get a pet fish. My daughter just came home recently with a pet fish. Hopefully that fish will stick around for a while, but so yeah, thus far it's been kind of mirroring my life. But I think, as I said, I think unfortunately there's a lot of families that can relate to all of these issues.
Life imitating art.
Correct.
I was going to ask if your husband was actually blue.
No, he's not blue, but I'm not green, so there you go.
There you go. So what? So with your husband having the Persian background, what has that done with your kids as far as learning a different culture? Do they embrace another culture?
They do. They love there's a lot of similarities, but one of the biggest things that they love is the cooking and the food. My husband is an amazing cook. His family has a very interesting background. They're Israeli, Persian, and his father grew up in India. So they cook a lot of exotic, really interesting foods that my kids never had before. And my in-laws and most of my husband's family live in Israel. So my son had gone to Israel with me for the first time. We visited my in-laws, and he absolutely loved that. So it's been great.
And how receptive were your in-laws to a fair-skinned lady such as yourself?
Oh, they've been nothing but loving from the minute I met them. So they're great.
And very accepting to their bonus grandchildren?
Very accepting. Really, really wonderful. I wish they lived closer because they really, even my son had not seen them since the wedding because my father-in-law is older and it's too difficult for him physically to travel. And when we had gone there last year and they hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, it was really like no time had passed and they really just got along tremendously. So it's a shame that they live so far.
I'm guessing a lot of FaceTime?
Yeah, FaceTime, phone calls. It's hard. It's difficult because of the time difference. And they're observant, so the only time we can actually try to connect is on Sundays.
Do your kids embrace any of their culture as far as maybe not necessarily religion, but anything there that they've brought into their own life?
My family wasn't religious before I met my husband. We just celebrated the major holidays, but my husband him and his family were, I would say, not a lot more religious than I am. And my kids actually haven't really embraced it, the holidays and stuff. And we do follow a lot more traditions, and my kids go to religious school and stuff once a week, and they've kind of embraced it and enjoy the family get-togethers and the holidays.
Maybe a Freeda book will be Freeda Finds Faith.
may be.
Yeah. You can keep that. I'm not going to sue you for that because you're a lawyer. You know the law. I know nothing about the law.
Thank you.
Yeah, Freeda finds faith. It rings off the tongue.
Catchy, very catchy.
What advice would you give to other families as far as becoming a blended family? What has worked really well for you and your family?
Well, I think what's worked is that we both put a lot of effort into not making the kids feel like mine and yours would make them all feel. We try to make them feel all like ours, and treating all of them the same. And really, I mean, we genuinely love all of them. There's no my kids, your kids.
So how do you handle? How is discipline handled in the household?
I mean, I don't try to, and my as you say, bonus daughters, they're very close with their mom, and I never wanted to, and she's terrific, and I never wanted to ever step on her toes or anything like that. And when I met them, they were older, so I kind of came in more, I guess, since they were older and they weren't little kids, more almost like a friend. So we just became, I guess, as time went on, more better friends. And with my kids, I mean, my husband's around them all the time. They're with us, I mean, most of the time. So he took on really a much more involved role. And also they're younger. So, I mean, I guess we both kind of take turns with certain things. We're both a little more easygoing about certain things than others. So we both would discipline. I mean, I don't really have to discipline. His girls are older and they're really terrific. My kids need a little more guidance at times just because they're younger. But he and I are always pretty much on the same page.
Was it a different world for your husband now raising a young man?
Yeah, it was. He only knew girls, but it was nice. It was really nice for him. I mean, they have a lot of common interests, my husband and my son. So they're both very musically talented. They both love piano, guitar, singing. So they play together sometimes. They really both have a natural ear for music. So that's something they really bond with. And my husband tries to teach my son certain things like, I don't know, how to fix things.
What about cooking? Do they cook together?
Sometimes my husband has him cook with him, and sometimes he'll teach him how to do things around the house, and he has somebody to help him with the shoveling and stuff. So that's always a nice bonus for him. It's been really wonderful for both of them. I mean, my husband is a really great mentor, so I think my son's learned a lot from him, and my husband really enjoys having a son.
I'll tell you, I had a conversation a couple years ago with my father-in-law because I was in a little bit of reversal than your family, and it was just my son and I. And then when I started dating my wife, Ann, who has 2 daughters, it was a different world, going from just boys being boys to, oh my gosh, girls are nuts.
Right.
I mean, my son, he had his moments where he had his little temper tantrums, but my son, another thing my son and I have in common is that we're both only children. And it was really hard for me to handle the 2 girls, Betsy and Becca, when they would have their sister fights, because I didn't know how to handle it. It's a conflict thing, and I just didn't know how to handle it. And so a lot of times I would literally go hide. I'd either be in my office here, or I would be in the bedroom, because I just didn't know how to handle it. And with guys, it is different than raising girls. And so I just find it fascinating that your husband and your son are bonding. And I love the word that you said, that he's a really good mentor to him. That is, I love that.
Thanks. One other thing, just when you had asked me before, I going back to about other families in terms of raising other children and stuff. I mean, I think it is really important to just not step on the toes of the other parent. Not to undermine the other parent, not to try to replace the other parent. I think that's important, because you don't ever want, not to say disparaging things about the other parent. I mean, my husband doesn't say disparaging things about my ex. I never say anything disparaging about his ex and to the kids, because you wouldn't want the kids to resent you, I feel like, for talking bad about the other parent.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree with you there on that one, Nadine, because all the kids have different relationship with parents. I mean, for example, my son has a friend who he just does not get along with his dad, but loves his mom to death. And so, yeah, you don't want to, you want to be silent at times. Even as mad as you might be at the other parent, or even, there might be something, I know I'm not the perfect ex-husband. And I've told that to a lot of people, but you're right. You don't want to set any kind of that precedent in the household of saying nasty things, because you just never know how it's going to bite you in the fanny.
Right, and you don't want the kids to feel that you're trying to replace. I wouldn't have wanted my husband's daughters to feel I was trying to replace their mom, and he wouldn't have wanted my kids to feel like he was trying to replace their dad. It's just kind of, the word bonus you use, we've used that with, I use that actually in my Freeda books, and we use that as far as the parents. We would say that you have a bonus parent, a bonus extra mom or an extra dad.
Yeah, I lost my choo-choo. I had a great story. I forgot it. Oh, well. I'll edit that out. I remember now, one of the things I did when my wife and I figured that this was it, we were going to not only continue dating, but eventually get married. Excuse me. I had a conversation with my oldest, Betsy, and gave her, I don't want to call it the talk, but I had a talk with her about exactly what you were saying, as far as, I'm not here to replace your dad, just like your mom's not to replace my son's mom. Did you have any of those types of conversations with your daughters? No, we didn't. It was just more how we acted.
They knew I wasn't looking to become their mom or replace their mom. And, my kids were young and little, so he didn't really need to have a conversation. My husband didn't really need to have a conversation like that with my kids, but it just kind of, I think they just saw by our actions that we wasn't a threat. At least my husband's daughters saw that I wasn't looking to become their new mom and replace their mom. I acknowledge their mom, and we've been at some events together, and it's totally fine. And I think it was just really more, I guess, like the expression actions speak louder than words. They kind of saw by our behavior we weren't really looking to step on anyone's toes. Do you, or have you, hung out with the girls? Just have girls' days and just spa days? I don't know. Just you and the girls? Yeah, we do. Yeah, the oldest is in grad school and the middle one is in college, not too far. So every now and then when they come home, we do girls' night, which is usually just either going to a movie or going to get a cup of coffee, dessert, that kind of thing. But yeah, we do.
And what movies do you ladies like when you do hit the movies?
I guess probably more like chick flicks, because my husband doesn't really like going to those. So, They're my chick flick buddies.
There you go. Yeah, I'm the oddball because all the girls love. I like Harry Potter. I'm just not in love with the series. They love all those. I don't know what you call them. Those, I don't know. But Lord of the Rings. They love all those. Mm-hmm. And actually, when the Harry Potter movies were coming out at midnight, her and Betsy would always hit those midnight movies. I always thought that was super cool, because they had that kind of relationship. So I was wondering if you and the girls had, your type of movies that you had to go see.
Yeah, those are the kind of things we would like to do. And just in the same vein, my husband and my son like seeing certain things that the girls and I have no interest in, like James Bond movies.
Oh.
That's more their kind of thing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
I lost the choo-choo again. Oh.
No, I did too.
Yeah. What unique traditions have you all come up as a family? Not saying like a Persian tradition, but just something unique to your family.
I don't know if it's unique to my family, but my husband said he never did this with his girls, and I kind of tried to always do this with my kids. So we, as a family, try to. With the exception of every now and then somebody has something going on, we try to always eat dinner together, because that's our real. Usually, everybody's busy during the day. With the kids have school, we have work, the kids have activities. So dinner is generally the only time we all get to sit together, especially during the week. And Friday nights, when the kids are with us, we generally try to do a nice dinner at home, usually at home. So I guess that's probably kind of become a regular thing.
Not really knowing a lot about Persian food, what's a good Friday Persian family meal that your husband would cook?
There's a lot of dishes have spices. He makes a lot of. It's not even necessarily just Persian. It's kind of a blend of Persian, Israeli, Indian. So it's mostly a lot of things with curry, interesting spices, fresh vegetables. It's no one thing really comes to mind.
Man, I'm feeling my ulcer kicking right now with spices. Yeah, and your kids, they have no issue with that type of spices.
No, they love it. They never really ate like that before. So my daughter recently has become a little more of a picky eater, but my son will pretty much eat anything. So he's a growing, almost 14-year-old kid. So he loves it all. She's a little more picky, but generally they like it.
For him, is it hotter the better? The spicier the better?
No, he's not. No, he doesn't like it that spicy. But he's just going through a major growth spurt, so he's just eating a lot.
Yeah, I know that one. Gosh, I know that one. All right, so Nadine, the new book coming out in May, Freeda the Frog moves.
Freeda the Frog is on the move.
On the move. What can you tell us about that book that really stands out about the move?
So, the kids, in this book, as I said, since they're a bigger family, they need a bigger tadpole to accommodate, bigger lily pad to accommodate all the tadpoles. And at the beginning of the book, you see the families together, and they're just very uncomfortable because they're all kind of on top of each other. They don't have a lot of room. And the kids were really excited about the move until they realized they would have to switch schools, and they were really upset about that. And that it wasn't in the same town; it was a neighboring lake town that had bigger lily pads. So, but
now, is this based on any truth in your household?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, as I said, it's kind of been unintentionally, or I guess subliminally, mirroring my life a bit. But when I told my kids at first that we were leaving the city, they really didn't want to leave. But for my kids, after we were here a very short while, they made a lot of friends. They liked having bigger house, more space. So they were really, they kind of got over it. And they were happy. And now, I mean, there's no going back. They love it. But with the tadpoles in the book, they had a little bit of an adjustment at first. But similarly, they went to the new school and they made some friends, and they loved having bigger space to move around, and they adjusted and they were happy. So I'm hoping that it will comfort kids that are going through that kind of a situation to see that it may be scary at first, going through a move, leaving their friends, leaving what they know, but that it's going to work out.
Well, I like to bring a little stoicism in our household, and I talk to the kids about, you put the worst case scenario in your head, but when it comes into real life, it's not as bad as you really thought about.
Right.
And that's where moving can be very traumatic, but a lot of times it does work out. You get to meet new friends, new places, still get to shovel more snow.
Right.
Well, Nadine, I really greatly appreciate your time. And is your mom still around?
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure. And yes, she is. She lives not too far from me.
And when you do book signings, do you bring mom with you?
She's come to some of the events, yeah, and I do introduce her as the original Freeda.
The OG. Yeah, tell her, the OG Freeda.
So, she actually spells her name a little differently than the Freeda the Frog series Freeda, but she is the original Freeda.
Well, when you see her, tell her I say hi. Tell her she's now the OG. She's the OG.
Okay.
And are all the books available just on your website or through Amazon?
Yeah, all the books there's direct links on my website, which is www.freedafrog.com. But they are, and those are direct links to Amazon, but they're also available aside from Amazon on Barnes & Noble, on Books A Million. I think Walmart has both of the books, definitely the first book, and Mascot Books.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so happy we finally connected, Nadine, and that we were able to finally do this. So I appreciate your patience, and looking forward to hearing about the next. I'm telling you, Freeda Finds Faith. That could be the book.
Thank you for that idea. I appreciate it.
I told you, it's free. It's free.
Thank you, and this was great, and it was very nice chatting with you.
Thank you for listening to Blending the Family. Oh, yeah, and we hope you'll come back next time. Please. No, really, please.